Good morning, 8th graders, and welcome to virtual math class. Today we're going to continue talking about slope. So our objective for today is that students will be able to determine if the slope of a line is positive, negative, undefined, or zero. So let's review just for a minute. So what does slope measure? Slope measures what a line is. Right, how steep a line is. So slope measures steepness. So how do you find slope? We have already talked about this. So the way that we learned already is it is our vertical distance over our horizontal distance. Another way that is called is rise. So the amount you rise vertically over how much you run, which would be horizontally. So you will hear it both ways. So just know that vertical distance over horizontal distance is the same thing as rise over run. Okay, so look at all of these. Each of these are an example of a positive slope. So imagine that you are climbing. We will say climbing. So you start right here because that's, the y-intercept where you start, and then you climb upward. On each of these, you are going up. So if you start and you are going up, then that means it is a positive slope. So notice that each of these lines, they go in the same direction. So this is positive slope for you. Okay, negative slope then is the opposite. So if you're at some starting point, it's like you're starting on top of the mountain and then you're going down. Just like this nice little penguin guy over here shows, you are going downhill. So look at where your y-axis is, and if it's going downward, that means it's going to have a negative slope. So look at all these, become familiar with them, and these are your negative slopes. Another way that I like to look at it is you can actually make an N out of your negative slope. Looky there. So if you get confused, if you can make an N and it looks the right way, then it's a negative slope. Okay, now undefined slope. Undefined slope, say what? Okay, so an undefined slope is a vertical line. Vertical lines do not have a slope. The slope is undefined at that point. So let's think about this. If we find the slope of a line by doing our vertical distance over our horizontal distance, if I start at any point, I'm going to start at this one. I rise, my vertical distance, let's say between these 2 points would be 1, right? But what's my horizontal distance? 0. So if you try putting that in your calculator should yell at you because 1 divided by 0 is not possible. So if you try to do 1 divided by 0, if you're using your phone, it should say error. In other cases, it'll say undefined. So 1 divided by 0, you can't do it. And so that would be an undefined slope. Okay. And now zero slope. So zero slopes are our horizontal lines. And this would be the opposite. So if we choose 2 points, I'm going to choose those two. We are not rising any, right? So we would rise 0, but our run would be 1. So if you do 0 divided by 1, that gives you 0 because 0 divided by anything is 0. So zero slope would be a horizontal line. We can move horizontally, but we can't move vertically. Okay, so now identify this line. Is this line positive, negative, 0, or undefined for this graph? What is it? If you said that it is positive, you are correct. So if I am starting here, we'll just start at our y-intercept. If I start here, I am going uphill. And if I'm going uphill, it's positive. So on this one, it's positive. Now, what about this one? We have a horizontal line. Is a horizontal line positive, negative, 0, or undefined for the slope? Answer now. Okay, so I'm not rising any. So my vertical distance is 0. My horizontal distance would be 1 or 2 or 3, depending on which lines you're using, which points. So 0 divided by anything is 0. So the slope of my line would be 0. Good job. And what about this one? Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it 0? Or is it undefined? So answer now. Right. It would be negative. I can make this giant N and I can say negative. So it is negative. And if we started at our y-intercept, I'm going downhill. So all of those ways are ways that you can think of your negative slope. And for this one, identify the slope as positive, negative, 0, undefined, or nothing, because there is no other option. Okay, for each graph, so if I start at my y-intercept, am I going up or down? I'm going up. And remember, if I go up, 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 that means it is positive. Good job. Okay, last one together, and then you're going to do some on your own. So identify the slope as positive, negative, 0, undefined from each graph. So if I look at this one, if I start here, how much am I rising? What would my vertical distance be? It would be 1. And what would my horizontal distance be? 0. And what is it going to do? It's going to yell at you because the slope is undefined, because you can't divide by 0. So our slope is undefined here. And on your own, what is the slope of the line? Just kidding, that's not on your own. This is the last one we're going to do together. So you can see that I have a point here and I have a point here. And so I'm going to do my rise over my run. So I'm going to count how much I rise, or what the vertical distance would be between these points. So I'm going to start at the top one. And I'm going down. So I go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if I go down, if I go down, am I getting larger or smaller? I'm getting smaller. So that's not only is that going to be 7, that's going to be a -7 or a -7. And then for my run, how much am I running? So I'm going to start where I left off. So I run 1, 2, 3, 4. So my slope would be -7 over 4. And does that match up? Is the slope of that line, would it be negative? Yes, it would, because I can make this giant N right here and say negative. So if I have a negative on top and a positive on bottom, that would in fact be a -7 over 4. Good job. Okay, so try this one on your own. What is the slope of the line? Do your rise over your run and tell me what your slope would be. So how much you rise? We rise 1, 2, 3, 4. We rise 4, and we run 1, 2. And then 4 divided by 2 is 2. So the slope of our line is 2. Hope you got that right. Okay, so do this one on your own. Which line has a positive slope? Which line has a negative slope? Which line has an undefined slope? And which line has the slope of 0? So positive would be the red line. It is going up, 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 and away. Negative would be the green line because you're going down. Slope undefined. There's no slope that is undefined because an undefined slope is vertical. And the slope of 0 would be this blue line right here that is horizontal. And last one on your own, what is the slope of this line? So we do rise over run. How much did we rise? We rose 2. How much did we run? If we do that, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. But if I started at my highest point, or my first point, I go down, right? I start at -1 on my y-axis, and then I go down to -3. So that would be a -2/4, and that would reduce down to -1/2. And remember that this line should be negative, because I can make that in. So our slope is -1/2.